We're going to make this cute simplicity pattern. Not the skirt, it's awfully nice, but we're going to make the pants. The pants comes in two sizes, shorter and longer, and we're going to make the longer with 2 patch pockets on the front. Plus, I'm making it a bit challenging in that we're going to do a striped pair of pants. That means I had to be very careful as I was cutting out. This pair of pants' this patch pocket is going to disappear beautifully. First up is the pocket and the pocket band. Fold this pocket band in half, lengthwise. Give it a solid press. Right sides together, pin across, and sew across. By the way, I only took a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then as well, I pressed down on the pocket band edge a 1/4 inch. Next, on the unnotched edge, I'm going to fold back where we just pressed in half, matching the 1/4 inch turn under with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Match those up nicely. And then I will run a 5/8 inch seam from here to here. See, this side is all sewn down now, and I'm going to trim that seam just above the fold. So that it turns nicely. Turn right side out. Poke pin that corner out, just as crisp and clean as you possibly can. There it is. Now I'm all set up to press down this 5/8 inch seam allowance, and here's where the stripes kind of come in handy so I know where I'm really at. And again on the bottom, 5/8 inch up. That leaves this raw edge, which will be the hip seam. But before I top stitch, I decided to press in the raw edges one more turn. Okay, nice and top stitched close to the edge. And now it's time to take the front pant piece, see here's the crotch, and place our pocket up to it, matching notches, and we see the one and only chalk mark that we needed to make is the landmark to hit for the edge of the pocket. First, I'll sew this seam. Actually, I'll go in about 1/2 inch and just secure this. Then I'll come back and I'll top stitch these two sides. Top stitching in progress. I'm going about a 1/4 inch in. I'm very interested in matching up all these stripes perfectly. Corner turn. These stripes are kind of wild and crazy, aren't they? But but I think they'll really look great on my intended subject for modeling. Then, because I couldn't help myself, I went around a second time. Okay, look, these pockets have turned out beautifully. See, they'll accommodate anything that you care to use them for. Now that we finished the detail, it's time to put these pants together. And as promised in the title of this video, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to elasticize or drawstring your pants waist. Now, warning, throughout I may very well use a 3/8 inch seam allowance because I think this might be a little close to call for my model. You go ahead and follow the 5/8 inch that's called for, or whatever you intuitively feel is right. Also, if you should get this pattern, you will find that I'm going to put the back seam and front seam and leg seams together differently so that I can show you these 3 different ways. You again intuitively get to choose which way you're going to do it, the way the pattern calls for or the way I'm going to teach you now. As well, I'm going to use a serger for needle to put together most of these seams. You don't need to do so if you don't have a serger. You can just straight stitch on your regular sewing machine. You can opt to cut out all of your pieces with a great pair of pinking shears, zigzag your edges, or use the serger. Okay, taking the front pieces, right sides together, pin and sew this seam. Serging seam in progress. Now go ahead and do the same thing with these 2 back pieces. And I want to tell you a little something. I have gone ahead and ad-libbed another aspect. The pattern calls for you to sew on a separate band, waistband. I thought to myself, why? And I just drew up 2 extra inches. The width of whatever the width of the waistband was, I just drew it on. I decided, why would I go through that extra step? Again, if you get this pattern, you can either honor it or you can follow my little shortcuts. Okay, which will become more apparent later. Okay, sew that back seam. And I did some pretty nice matching of these seams in back with the stripes, didn't I? Okay, serged side, all pressed to one side. Now place the front, the good old pockets, right sides together, and just pin together one side seam or the other, does not matter which one, and we're only going to sew one side seam for now. Okay, so now you have one entire side seam sewn. And seen from this view, here's the back middle seam. Here's that long side seam. Front middle crotch seam. This is the time to serge all the way around as finishing. Next, we sew this side seam that we left undone before. Fold out your press line and make your seam. And press that seam to the back just like you did on the other side previously. Okay, third time's the charm, because this is what the pattern is really calling for. Instead of elastic in the casing, this time we're going to make a pretty drawstring out of the same material. You could purchase cord material and get the same effect, but we're going to go through the steps for making our own drawstring. So just as before, you pressed down your 1 1/4 inch casing, okay? And then as the pattern indicated, you mark for buttonholes, because this drawstring is going to be looped through, of course, the casing and come out the buttonholes and tie cutely in front, okay? First we'll make the drawstring. Press down a 1/2 inch on each edge. Then the entire length, fold it in half lengthwise, and press it in place. Once that's all done, pressed lengthwise, fold in again once more. It usually works better to just do one side at a time. Get it as even as you can, match it up to that center line. Then fold it as narrow as possible. Do this all the way along. Top stitch all the way around. We're getting ready to make buttonholes in front for that nice drawstring to come through. Usually buttonholes are made through 2 thicknesses. One thickness, the interfacing, and then the other thickness. We won't be doing that. We're just going through the 1 thickness of fabric and its interfacing. So now let's go over to the machine and make 2 very nice buttonholes. We covered buttonholes pretty well in shirts and blazers, so refer to that video for help, and also your owner's manual. Alright, now we're ready to do as before, stitch around the casing, and then we'll have the fun of threading that nice drawstring through. Okay? Alright, let's go on our little adventure threading this drawstring through these buttonholes and all the way around. So in the leftmost buttonhole, I mean, you can go in the other one and go in a clockwise direction if you want, but being right-handed, I guess this is how I'll do it. Now you might have to fight it a little bit to get it started, but just get it started. There she goes. And do what I taught you before. Snake it through all the way around to the other side. Now this will be easier than the elastic, I feel like, and you probably won't have any bunching up or gathering this time because the string is so long. The purpose is for the wearer to cinch this as tight as she wants, and then it will gather at that time. Okay, so keep going all the way around. I'm just about to pop out this other buttonhole now. There it comes. Pull it out, work this through. Until these are streaming out the front, pretty much the same length. Okay, look how cute these turned out. Little bit of gathering, adjust it. You've got the drawstring coming out, the buttonholes. Let's take the pin out of the bottom of the drawstring, and now the pattern calls for just kind of making a neat little knot down at the bottom so it can never go get caught out of the buttonhole. See if I can make these even. Kind of a nut for evenness. And we might have made the drawstring a little long. You could always put another knot or two in there for looks. It might look great. We're going to find out when we get it on our model. All that remains now is the crotch seam and the inner leg seam and the hem, and then we're finished. Now, finally, pin that inner leg and crotch seam and then go sew it however it is that you've been doing all of your seams. Time to hem, and then we'll be finished. Now, go ahead and finish your edge however you're going to. Mark off the amount needed. Press. Then hem by hand, or refer to our video about how to blind hem with your home sewing machine. Finished.